You ever wake up to the sound of your world getting chainsawed apart at 6 in the morning? Yeah, that was me, barely awake, standing in my boxer's mouth full of bitterness, watching my 6-foot privacy fence get torn down, while Brenda Thornfield, my HOA president / neighbor from hell, spray-painted giant orange X's on what was left. The sound alone, a chainsaw, shrieking metal, rattling splinters, flying, Brenda barking orders in her best "I run" this neighborhood voice felt like some sick suburban symphony. And all the while, neighbors were peeking through their curtains, probably half horrified, half thrilled it wasn't happening to them. The smell, man. It burned 2-stroke exhaust and cheap spray paint mixing with sawdust that coated my porch like radioactive snow. I could taste it. Brenda, in her yoga pants and safety vest, was running the show like a dictator at a demolition derby. "Your fence is 2 inches too tall," she screamed, waving a crumpled violation notice like it was a warrant for my arrest. "It ruins my $1,000,000 view and violates community standards." Just like that 20 feet of my Memorial Garden fence gone. So let me ask you, what would you do if your neighbor started chainsawing your property at sunrise? Drop your story below, especially if you've ever crossed paths with someone like Brenda. I'm Marcus DeLua, and let me tell you, 6 months before that morning, I thought moving to Pine Ridge Estates, Colorado was my fresh start. 52 widower, still healing from losing my wife Sarah to cancer after a brutal 2-year battle. The insurance money bought me this little ranch between 2 McMansions, a place I thought would give me peace. That fence Brenda was wrecking, I built it myself, one board at a time, working through my grief with every swing of the hammer, every nail, sunk every inch of cedar, her favorite wood stained by hand. Behind it was Sarah's garden, roses, lavender, the works. It was the one place in the world where her memory still bloomed. But none of that mattered to Brenda Queen Bee of the HOA 48 real estate agent Range Rover with Lux. Lady Plate's 2 sons who threw parties loud enough to rattle windows. Her beer cans never got her fined, but my work truck parked out front, major violation. First week she came at me about commercial vehicles not matching neighborhood character. I asked for the rule. She whipped out a binder that could stop bullets, bylaws multiplying like rabbits. I parked in the garage. She complained about electrical supplies in my window. I hung a curtain. Then came the violation notes: lawn an inch too tall for $50. Garbage bin out 30 minutes late, $50. A rake leaning against my wall, you guessed it, $50. She always delivered them herself. Heels clacking like a countdown timer across my driveway, perfume marking her territory long after she left. I'd sit at the kitchen table, flipping through her complaints, and realize that even my bitter coffee matched my mood. But the fence was war. She said it was 2 inches over the 6-foot rule and encroached on a strip of common area that didn't even exist in my deed. She hired a surveyor to dig up dirt after I ignored her friendly suggestion to lower it. "This fence destroys property values and creates a hostile environment," she announced at the HOA meeting held naturally in her living room. Store-bought cookies, her sister-in-law Janet taking minutes, 2 elderly residents nodding along in silent terror. I pointed out that 3 other houses had the exact same fence, but Brenda shut it down. When I argued the bylaws required 30 days notice, not her made-up 72 hours, she raised my fine to $300 for wasting the board's time. That's when I realized she'd made a fatal mistake. She thought I was just another grieving widower she could bully. But grief is a funny thing. When you've lost everything, you become someone with nothing left to lose. The next week, Brenda rolled up with a nervous surveyor in a folder thick enough to choke a horse. "Mr. DeLua," she said, pronouncing my last name like she was spitting out sour milk. "This is Brad from Precision Property Surveys. We're here to document your violations before legal action." They stomped around my yard, Brenda barking into her phone, Brad's tape measure snapping every few feet. But here's where her plan backfired while they were measuring me. I was walking the neighborhood with my phone. "Bullies always think victims won't fight back," Sarah used to say. Brenda's own mailbox was 7 feet tall over the limit. Her deck stuck out 18 inches too far. Those fancy landscape lights, not even close to code. Then a lunch break at the courthouse, digging through musty files, microfiche humming, I discovered the architectural guidelines for Pine Ridge Estates had never even been properly filed with the county. No legal authority. An old-timer once told me always check if the person making the rules has the right to do it. When Brenda sent me her final notice via certified mail, 72 hours to rip out the fence or face $200 a day in fines, I was ready. I demanded an emergency board meeting under Article 7 of the bylaws. Brenda scheduled it at 2 p.m. on a Thursday. Her living room again, half the board asleep or terrified. She brought cookies. I brought photos of her own violations. Care to explain your 7-foot mailbox? I asked, laying out the evidence. The room turned cold. Janet's pen froze. Dr. Hoffman woke up. Mrs. Hannah nearly fainted. Brenda's mask slipped. She started inventing new emergency authority rules on the spot. They voted 3-1 against me. My fines shot up to $300 a day. But I walked away knowing one thing: desperate people make mistakes. 3 days later, Brenda escalated. A letter from a fancy law firm landed in my mailbox demanding I remove the hostile structure immediately. The kicker. The letter was dated before our board meeting. She'd planned her legal ambush all along. Next came County Code Enforcement Officer Martinez, confused tablet in hand. He checked every inch of my property while Brenda watched, heels clicking, praying for a bust. "Everything's up to code," he said, finally shaking his head. "Sorry for wasting your time." That night I heard Brenda at the mailboxes, stage whispering poison about me. That was the last straw. I spent 2 evenings at the courthouse combing through records. Turns out our HOA had a habit of missing filings. Its corporate status had expired. Worse, Brenda had set up shell companies in her maiden name and funneled $40,000 in landscaping contracts from HOA funds straight into her own pocket. Even worse, I found emails where she was negotiating to sell the common area behind my fence to a cell tower company. All this fence drama, she wanted my fence gone to get her payout. Armed with this, I rallied the neighbors, those with the same fence violations, the elderly widow, the couple facing foreclosure over playground equipment. Together, we filed complaints with the Attorney General. The real estate board demanded a real HOA meeting, this time at the community center, with proper notice. Friday morning, I watched Brenda sprint to the mailbox in her bathrobe, tear open an official letter, and turn pale as the fraud allegations hit home. Monday. I woke to sheriff's deputies serving me with a restraining order. Brenda claimed I'd threatened her, backing it up with a doctored recording that made me sound like the villain. Her next board meeting, conveniently held while I was banned, authorized immediate fence removal, handed the contract to her brother-in-law, slapped me with a $4 $200 bill, and a property lien. But her restraining order, filed with the wrong address, riddled with lies, proving perjury. My attorney, Sarah Blackwood, nearly laughed out loud when she saw the paperwork. "She's just handed you the keys to her own destruction," Sarah said. The real kicker came when I dug even deeper. Not only was the HOA's legal authority long dead, but under Colorado law, all fines, liens, and dues collected since its expiration were invalid, and every victim could recover triple damages plus attorney fees. Suddenly, we had a real army. Dr. Hoffman finally done enabling. Brenda handed me years' worth of evidence, rigged contracts, fake meetings, pocketed money. The plan: let Brenda demolish my fence on live TV while Channel 7's investigative team filmed, then serve her with lawsuits and watch the fallout. Monday morning came and Brenda strutted out in her crisp blazer, heels clicking, expecting her big win. The demolition crew set up, clearly uncomfortable. As Jennifer Walsh in her news van rolled in, neighbors gathered, this time not as spectators but as witnesses. Sarah Blackwood served Brenda a lawsuit and injunction right there on camera. I dropped the bomb: expired articles of incorporation, illegal fines, while $127,000 collected under false pretenses. Brenda's meltdown was epic ranting, blaming even letting a racist slur slip on live TV. The crowd was stunned. The sheriff shut the demolition down. Brenda, flustered, tried to claim I was trespassing, only to be informed that the restraining order was void and she was facing criminal charges. The class action suit settled for $438,000. Brenda lost her real estate license, was forced to sell her McMansion, her Range Rover, even her chandelier. 18 months of community service, $89,000 in restitution, marriage in shambles. But the true victory, Pine Ridge Estates, rebuilt from the ashes. We formed a real property owners association, Transparent Legal, with Dr. Hoffman as president and Mrs. Patterson handling the books. I coordinate maintenance, every cent accounted for. The leftover funds started a scholarship for local kids. Property values bounced back. The bitterness faded, and my memorial fence still stands, no longer a barrier, but a symbol. If you ever face a tyrant in your own neighborhood, remember, you're not alone. You can fight back. Share your stories in the comments. Let's keep exposing these HOA dictators together. And hey, if justice served with a side of poetic irony made your day, hit that like button, subscribe, and buckle up, because next week's story is even wilder.